What's going on, guys? RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time Consulting. We are back with another Felony Friday, Unshackled Success Stories. And this is part 2 of our interview from last week with Steve, who's done 20 years in federal prison. We got to hear a little bit of his pre-story to prison. Did I say Steve? I meant James. Steve is next week. Take 2. We're here back with James, Felony Friday, Shackles Unleashed. And today we're going to be talking about his actual prison experience. He's done over 20 years in a combination of state and federal prison. He's got some crazy stories, what he had to do to survive, and that's coming up next. Okay, so should we call you Steve or should we call you James today?
Man, I don't know, man. I kind of like the Steve. Hold on, let me turn my phone down, make sure we don't go crazy here. All right.
This is a fun one. Man, we prepped for like an hour so we didn't have any mishaps, and in the first 8 seconds got them all. All right, so James, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man.
So you said you got some interesting feedback from last week's episode from both people that heard your story, but more so on what people heard on your wife's story.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of people, that friends and stuff like that, that have heard my story, and some people that haven't heard all of it, but after they listened to that story, it was more of Renee's story of dealing with a drug addict and worrying about if they're going to die and all these things that some of our friends were just sobbing.
Really?
So it's I never even realized how much of a impact it creates with family members. And it was... You
mean until you heard it?
Yeah, from
people's feedback?
Yeah, because, I guess, of course, there's loved ones out there that go through this, but it's never really talked about.
Right.
So there's a lot of people that could relate to her side of the story.
Well, guys, if you didn't hear James's part 1 last week of Felony Friday, you can go back and watch that. We'll also link it in the description of this video. So if you want to watch kind of part 1, which was the whole journey, his childhood, living in foster homes and molestation, abuse, drug abuse. So we're going to kind of jump into this one. Take us maybe, if you want to, you don't need to kind of recap too much, but kind of just go into where you did your first real prison sentence and what crime did you commit? Take us through committing that crime, getting caught. Did you go to jail right away? Was there bond? Kind of bring us up to speed on that, and slide over this way a little bit so you're in the center of that camera.
After I turned 18, it was a few months after my 18th birthday that I committed my first adult crime, which was a robbery at a convenience store with a BB gun. I committed the robbery because, I thought that, there was some money to be made. And when I committed the robbery, I thought I would get more than $40 to $60. But apparently they do drops of money and they don't keep that much. So I committed the robbery. I went into the 7-Eleven here in Yakima, robbed the 7-Eleven, and got what money they had in the till, left. Right away, went to go get drugs and was in a house doing drugs. And I think it was within a couple days after that, I was arrested and thrown in the county jail. Scared to death. I'd never been in jail before, and that was just right after my 18th birthday. And I remember being put up on the 4th floor at the county jail, scared out of my mind. The whole booking process was freaky. I was like, wow, I got to get stripped naked and all these stuff. And they want to look at my ass and everything. You know what I mean? So it was different. And then I got stuck up on the 4th floor with, mostly, men. I was still a kid. So I was a little freaked out by that. And
that was here, at this county jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is basically like you could throw a rock at it from here.
Basically, it's just a couple blocks down the street.
Yep.
And I was put up on the 4th floor for a while, and then I was transferred to another pod. I can't remember, but the whole process of being in there and feeling like you don't have any hope. You know, I didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, shit, I'm really in trouble. This is my first robbery, and I don't know what I'm going to be looking at. And I was there for a few months and got a plea deal for 48-month sentence.
What were you facing at first, like with the charges that they hit you with before you took your plea deal? What type of sentence potentially could you have been facing?
I think at max, because I didn't have a lot of priors. I had little stuff for juvenile, but I thought at a max, maybe if I took it to trial, I'd maybe get 70-something months. But they offered me a 48-month sentence. I talked to my attorney, and he says that's probably a pretty good deal. You should take that. So,
and you, at this point, you hadn't done any real time, right?
I had not.
Okay.
No.
Were you? What did? So obviously, overall, you did a lot more than 48 months. But at that time, hearing a 48-month sentence, because a lot of our viewers that's about the amount of time that they're going to be facing. What did it feel like when you heard that you were going to serve 48 months? Did it sound like the end of the world? Did it sound like a good deal?
It's when I first heard that I was going to assign for 48 months, I was 18. So, as you know, dealing with kids, 48 months sounds like 50 years.
Right.
I was like, damn, this is a lot of time.
Sounds like a life sentence.
It sounds like a life sentence. So to me, it was freaky. And I was almost thinking, well, my life's pretty much done. I mean, I got to go do 48 months. What am I going to do with that? When I get out, I'm going to be an old man. Just all the things that you think as a kid, even though it's really not a lot of time, but
right.
Still, it's
all relevant to what,
Yeah, it's perspective.
And talking about being a kid, are you comfortable talking about what we talked about through text message?
I don't remember.
Your son?
Oh, yes.
I mean, not details, but
yeah, my son, a couple days ago, I was just at his sentencing, and he got sentenced to 16 years for murder. And it was heartbreaking, but it was a tragic story. And, all he can say is it was self-defense, but he won't elaborate on what really happened. But it's a weird scenario. The guy he killed was in his underwear, an older guy. And I don't know. It doesn't sit well. I think there's more to it. Family thinks there's more to it, but all he claims is it's self-defense. He had to do it.
And your son is affiliated gang member, correct?
Well, I thought that, and then after I've talked to the family or whatnot, they said that he's just kind of a wannabe. He's not really in. So
the person that the life that he took, was that person affiliated in any kind of a gang member, or is it?
All I heard was he was just mentally unstable, and he was a transient living on the streets. So I have no idea about him.
Did your son have any priors prior to this?
Not really. He had some minor stuff, nothing major.
So his first real time, he's getting
real time, got 16 years.
16 years. Did he go to trial or did he take a plea deal?
He took a plea deal.
Okay. So he admitted guilt. So he didn't go into court saying it was self-defense. He took the plea deal, and
he took a plea deal, but he was
between the lines. It was what he's saying is self-defense.
Right.
Okay, man. And you're in touch with the family, your family, his family.
Yeah.
And I know for your relationship with him, is distant due to many variables, to the state of mind he's in, to what you can and can't do, what kind of influence you can be right now. And it's just not according to you, it's not healthy for you right now with what you're trying to do. And
at that particular time, it was not healthy for me, I felt.
Right.
So I had to step back because I know my own issues, and I have a family, and I got to protect that. So.
Right. Which a lot of people obviously can't understand that. And there's people out there that have never been through anything that are like, they're looking at it very linear in a very black and white situation. But there's, family feuds and family problems. It's easy to tell somebody else how they should run their family, but inside of your own family, you got to do what you got to do at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So he just got sentenced.
Yeah.
And is there any part of you that feels like fuck, what did I pass on through my through my DNA? Or did that thought, does that?
Well, you know, and I talked to Renee and I've talked to other people about it. Even the court hearing, I spoke.
Oh, you were at his court.
Yes.
Oh, you went there.
I
Okay.
was there.
Oh,
And
wow.
I even spoke in court. I feel blame. I feel like, you know, I let him down as a father. I felt, hey, you know, I think that grief when you're dealing with this, or you're dealing with any drug addict or somebody that else, and it's your family member, you always feel like, well, shit, was there something I could do? Was, you know, there's always the little doubts in your head going, man, if I would have done this, or if I would have done that, maybe the outcome wouldn't have been the same. So I'm dealing with that.
Right.
You know, feeling like I failed as a father. There's something I could do if I would have been there, or if he would have called me, if we had that relationship, would he have went down this road? I don't know.
Right.
But I still feel, you know, some guilt for it.
Yeah, I would imagine as a father, no matter what the situation is, there you can't help but to feel some kind of, you know, not responsible, but what could you have done different, right? And unfortunately, there's no redos, there's no reset button on life.
Right.
And that's why it's important for people that are watching this, that are, you know, young men that are going through this life cycle, that you're out there, fast life, fast money, fast women, it pops up fast kids. And when you're not in a situation or the right mind frame to really be a responsible individual, and you have kids, these are repercussions that come out later in life. You know, then granted, there's the fucking Brady Bunch could pop out a kid that could end up going to prison. So it's not like that's the only factor, but Absolutely. It doesn't help, you know. So I think by you being here, sharing your story of, you know, I'm sure there is a cognitive role that was played that contributed to your son's path, that maybe your story can help somebody else not make that same journey. So enough about your son. I'm sorry to hear about that, and it's horrible. And hopefully this will save his life. Maybe in the end, this is what he needs. But
yeah,
you know, 16 years, good time, whatever it works in the state.
Not much.
Not much.
Murder. Not much.
And
murder.
You know, and being that young, those are the ages where you go buck wild in prison, testosterone's flowing, and
I worry about that.
Yeah,
because of his age and his anger and stuff like that. I mean, I worry about him turning 16 years into a life sentence. So.
Right. It's very possible. It's very possible.
Getting killed.
And maybe we can keep tabs on that. And, you know, maybe if he knows there's other people out there that are rooting for him that don't even know him, maybe that would be some inspiration for him. So we'll send him a card.
Right.
With a cake with a file.
With a file with some handcuff keys.
There you go.
Right.
So let's get back into your first prison sentence was 48 months.
Yep.
Plea deal you took. Mm-hmm. You were here in Yakima County Jail. Yep. That's where you got sentenced out of.
Mm-hmm.
And how long? What happened next?
After I took the plea deal and I was sentenced by the court, probably after I took the plea and signed the paperwork, I think I went to court a couple days later. The judge, you know, of course, you have to go through the whole thing of, you know, apologize and, you know, take responsibility for your actions. After I did all that, the judge sentenced me to the 48 months. I remember going back to my jail cell, and I was thinking, well, wonder when I'm going to be leaving to go to prison. And talking to other people, they're like, oh yeah, you'll be out on the chain on Wednesday, because I think the chains leave like every Wednesday out of this county jail to Shelton prison.
And did you know where you were going to go?
Well,
or you had a good idea?
Not at first. I mean, I know that anytime you're sentenced to prison here in this state, you're automatically transferred to Shelton, Washington, which is a correctional intake facility. So everybody goes there and they go through classification, and they're usually there about 6 to 8 weeks before you're done with classification, and they determine where they're going to send you. And
classification is the type of crime, your age, basically what's kind of security.
Well, yeah.
level.
And then you go through all the other steps of, you have to see medical. They do some medical tests. They do some psychological tests. Some other kind of tests. You talk to counselors, you talk to classification, and they kind of just put all this paperwork in order, try to figure out if you're affiliated with any gangs. All these different things go into it to determine where's best suitable prison for you. And so, yeah, I think I was there about 6 to 8 weeks before
you transferred.
I transferred.
And then you transferred. Did they come like shackled you up, like chain gang type thing?
Yeah.
Waist.
So usually how it works in the state here while you're at Shelton, you never know when you're going on the bus. There'll usually be a couple weeks and they'll tell you, where you're going. But you never know exactly when you're leaving. It'll usually be the night before. They'll slide a paper bag under your door that has the initials of the prison you're going to. And then, hey, I got to pack all my stuff. I have to have it turned in by, they come and rack your door, and you got to bring all your property, everything you own in your little cell, which isn't a lot. You can't take a lot of stuff anyway. Usually just like one big paper bag. You take it down there to the front and they inventory it, staple it up, keep it in a paper bag. And then they come and get you at about 4 a.m. to take you to discharge and receiving, to put you in a bullpen and wait for the county jail to load up, or prison bus to load up and then transfer.
And these prison buses, these are, your
Bluebirds,
school bus, basically.
big old school bus. Yeah. Usually white,
yep.
Bluebirds school buses.
And do you enjoy the bus ride part of it? Cause you get to see out a window, or is it more
Not
of like,
really, you don't see too much. Most of the windows, they're big windows, but they got bars on them. Most of it's blacked out. I think you get about, well, at least a bus I was on, I think we had about 4 or 6 inches of clear glass. You can kind of stand up a little bit and look out the cracks.
And it's like what you see in the movies where the bus, where you come in the door, there's like a gate that closes where the CO's on the other, or the guards on the other side of it with like a shotgun.
Well, here it pulls all the way into the prison. So
no, I'm talking about on the bus itself while you're driving.
There's usually,
are you segregated from the driver?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have the bus driver in the front, and then usually towards the middle, there'll be 1 or 2 more cops in the middle, and then there'll be 1 in the back.
And are you guys handcuffed and shackled at this point?
Absolutely. Yeah.
To each other, or just to yourself, or maybe to the person sitting next to you?
No, on those buses there, when I went, I was shackled, handcuffed in the front, shackled, and a chain running, belly chain going around, and then a chain running from the foot to the wrist.
Okay. So if you were to get out of the bus, you weren't going very fast.
You're not moving very fast, dude. They give you a chain about this. You can just do a little waddle.
Just enough to give yourself a nice ankle rash.
Yeah. With your little prison slippers.
So from there, now this is your first experience going through kind of this whole experience, going through process, getting sentenced, waiting. Now you're on a bus, chain gang on a bus, Bluebird, going to what prison?
First prison I went to was Airway Heights.
Okay.
Airway Heights, I believe when we showed up, I was there in 94. 94, they were doing a full remodel. This prison wasn't even completely open yet. They only had a couple units open, and they were, at that time, they didn't even have a chow hall. We were still getting our food and eating in our unit because they hadn't had the chow hall even completely built yet.
Right.
They've had a camp there for a long time, but they didn't have, the prison wasn't it. I think we were one of the few chains that came in there to actually open it up.
Mm-hmm. And did they use you guys as like prison labor to work on the prison? Not really. No, they already had the design. They already had a bunch of people from the camp coming in, and they were doing a lot of the labor. What was the prison atmosphere like? Was it a high security prison, a low security prison?
It was a medium facility with they have what they call minimum long term. They have minimum, which is camp, and then people that had more than a 4-year sentence can be minimum security, but they couldn't go to a camp at that particular time. You have to wait until you're about 4 years short to be able to go to a camp. So anybody that is minimum security, even if you have more than 4 years, you're what they call minimum minimum long term.
Okay, so you're at a bit of a more lockdown facility.
Yes, it was more the unit I was in was like a medium security.
So describe the layout of the unit. Like if you could give what it looks like, what it smells like, bathroom, sleeping arrangements, food, kind of take us through that.
Sure.
Inmate, how'd you get along with others?
Yeah. So when I first walked into Airway Heights, I was in unit. In unit was a brand new unit. Walked into the door. I remember everything was clean. It was brand new. It hadn't even, we were like I said, we were one of the first chains to come in. I believe, I could be wrong, I believe there was over 60 something cells per side. There's two sides to a unit. You got A side, you got B side. I think I was on B side. And when I first went in, of course, you got people in the day room hanging out. I was a little intimidated, but not really.
Was this like a dorm, or were they tiers, like jail cells?
Two tiers.
Two tiers. So upstairs, downstairs.
Yeah. And they all had doors.
Okay.
Big wooden locked doors.
Okay.
We were all in cells with a cellie. So it wasn't, I don't believe any of them were single man cells. Quite a few of the cells down on the bottom floor, handicapped, whatever. I believe I was on a bottom tier. I can't remember the cellie I got, but it was pretty relaxed. It wasn't what I expected, but of course it was a medium security. So, and it was fairly new.
Was it mostly open? Like were your cell doors open the majority of the day where you could kind of go from there to the little downstairs tables and stuff?
Yeah, it was open during the day. We all had a little key that we carried around on our little badge that we hung off our shirt. And as for the key, we could open our doors, get in. If you shut the door at all, you don't need to lock it. It just automatically locks.
Right. You can't open it from the inside.
You can't open it from the inside as long as it's not lockdown time, because at lockdown time, it's locked.
A different kind of a locking mechanism.
Yes.
So it's, people like, you get a key to your own jail cell?
No, it wasn't like that. So I could use the key to open the door and I could walk out of the door. But after a certain minute, time frame at night, it was just automatically locked and you couldn't leave. There was a little button in case of an emergency or whatever. But
so what was there to do in there? Like how often could you take showers? How often could you use the phone? And what was the eating like in there?
So when I was there, I don't know, it's probably changed a little bit. It was really relaxed. Like I said, it was brand new. So we could leave our cells, we could go out to the yard, walk the prison yard, go to the gym. They had a nice weight room. They had a nice basketball area, handball. But you could come and go as you wanted, as long as it wasn't like during counts or anything like that. And then I think at 9 or 10 o'clock, the whole prison locks down. So,
so you had access to outdoors.
Yes.
Okay. So you could go
all the time. Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard it's changed now. I heard it's not like that anymore, but the prison's a lot bigger now. And I think from what I've heard that, they might each unit might get an hour or two a yard a day. But back when I was there, you could be out on the yard from morning until night. So
what the food there, was it, because in the feds, we have no matter where you are in the country, it's the same menu from state to state. Now the food's prepped and made a little different depending on where you're at, but it's the same menu. What type of food was the food good, or did you really like kind of bank on being able to have commissary?
For the most part, food was bad. All the food, mostly even through to today, they have a prison industries that is there that makes all the food for the state prisons throughout, and even some of the county jails. And it's a correctional industry that people get a job and they get to make like little TV dinners that have plastic on them. And mainly that's what we we were served. It was made in the prison industries and given to us each day, and it was shipped to different. And I think they even made food for Meals on Wheels too.
Okay. So real low budget type food.
Real low budget. It was some crap.
And so commissary was definitely something you get. Did you get commissary while you were in there?
Not that particular time. I didn't have anybody to love me then.
Yeah, it's
I was broke.
You got to have somebody loving. Now, in Florida, in the state jails or county jails in Florida, they actually charge you to be in jail. It's like a $2 a day fee.
Really?
So if you get commissary, and you're like, oh man, somebody sent me a couple $100, and you've been in there for 2 or 3 months.
Yeah,
they're taking $2 a day. They give you $60-$90 that they snatch out of you.
Wow.
So they don't do that here, right?
No, they did not.
So what about politics in a medium? White man in prison, you're not affiliated at that point. You're not in any, or I don't think you were ever in any gang, but what was it like there for, was it a violent place did you
Airway
see?
Heights was not violent at all.
Okay.
Not when I was there. I've heard now it's become a little bit political, but when I was there, it really wasn't. I mean, of course, inmates usually always stay with their own. So if you're white, you're usually with white people.
Right.
If you're black, you're with blacks, and Hispanics, you're with Hispanics. But there was not really too much segregation. This prison here was a little weird. I mean, they had sex offenders on the yard, and which I
did you know who they were?
Some of them you would know.
But there wasn't like, they were tagged with like a different color shirt or bracelet or anything that was like obvious that they were a sex offender.
Well, there's some of them that, that are on like a pink card.
A pink what?
A pink card. I think that's what they call them. And
what
they're like
is
a 2-hour watch.
Okay.
Some of them that are either escape risks, which usually there's not too many of them at that prison, but if there's some kind of predator or they, jack off to female guards or any of these weird things that they do, they get a 2-hour watch card.
What does that mean?
That means every 2 hours they got to report
to a CO.
To a CO.
Okay.
If they don't report, it's just like the feds. They have it at the feds too. But if you don't report, you're going to the shoe automatically.
Right.
Or the hole.
Man.
Yeah.
That's got to be mentally stressful because you might just forget. You're in the middle of like doing something.
You're not going to forget too many times.
Fuck no, I guess not. So how are the sex offenders treated on your? I mean, obviously I don't want to say obviously because I don't know. You tell me. How are they treated there? What was the interaction like with other inmates?
For the most part, I think that people that weren't sex offenders didn't have anything to do with them.
Right.
But of course, if they're a sex offender, they hang out with
other sex offenders.
Or.
But were they getting attacked and whatnot from other guys?
Not where I was at. No, not at that particular time.
Was it because it was a calm place, or was it because if you attack them, you're the one that's in trouble and you don't want to mess up your cushy? I hate to call any prison cushy, but
I think it's a combination of both.
Okay.
A lot of times, in my experience anyway, through the state prison system in general, sex offenders are pretty protected. Protected as by COs. If you mess with them, there's a good chance you're going to the hole. You're the one getting transferred.
It's almost considered like a hate crime.
Basically, if you threaten them or if they say that you did or any of that stuff, you're going to the hole.
Right. Would you guys check paperwork in there?
Not there.
Okay.
No, they didn't check no paperwork there.
So I guess being this was your first go, it's probably not a bad introduction to prison. Maybe it
wasn't bad.
Maybe if they would have sent them somewhere else first.
Right. If they would have sent me like Walla Walla or something, but.
And this is where you served. This is where you had your 48-month sentence, right?
I started there. Yeah.
Okay. So how long were you there for?
I was probably there for probably a year or so. And then I got in a fight with somebody and I got transferred out of there.
What was the fight about?
I don't even remember. It was probably something really stupid.
Like with another white guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I ended up getting in a fist fight. And I think both of us ended up getting transferred. Because a lot of times, especially like there and some of the other mediums, if you get in a fight, usually a lot of times they'll transfer both of you.
Right.
They're not even going to let one person out. They're
Kind of setting the precedent. And also they don't know like the fight. There could be somebody else involved, and
right.
you beat up this guy. Now you get jumped if you stay. There could be all kinds of repercussions.
They got friends. You beat them up, or they and their friends getting transferred. You may have a target. You know.
Right.
So they usually just transfer both.
And you were how old again? Roughly.
So when I got transferred out of there, I was there when I was 18. I don't even think I was there 2 years.
So you're like your son's age. How old's your son?
22.
22. So you were
younger than him.
Younger.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I
this
think
is
I was there about a year and a half before I got in trouble. So, and then I went to McNeil Island.
McNeil Island. And what was McNeil Island like?
McNeil Island was a little bit rougher, and they were checking a little bit of paperwork. Not a lot still. It was considered a medium security. I've heard throughout the years that it's changed, and now it's a sex offender program that civilly committed to.
Oh yeah, that's McNeil Island. Yes. That's why I heard
Yep.
of that. Yep, that's what it is now.
It used to be a federal prison many years ago, and then the feds sold it or traded it or did whatever they did with the state and let the state have it.
So when people hear that you went to McNeil Island, do you ever have to clarify and go, this was before it was a sex offender place?
I don't think I've had to clarify it. I usually do.
Right, because you never know. Like if
that's the first thing people think. Oh, you're civilly committed? You're a freak.
Yeah, are you allowed to be this close to a school?
Right. You're a little too close.
And to be clear, your crimes had nothing to do with kids.
Nothing.
So you got transferred to McNeil Island. Now, did you have to go into the shoe at all for the fight? Was there a sanction for that?
When the fight happened, we both went to the hole, and I can't remember how long we were in there. Not too long, because they do classification pretty fast, and they just want to get rid of you. So I think I was in there 2-3 weeks, maybe.
And this is just a solitary confinement cell, basically, right? A single man cell.
Single man cell.
And time goes real slow in a single man cell.
Yes, it does. You don't have much to do.
Right.
Sleep.
You would even probably be happy with like a less desirable roommate. Somebody that doesn't even speak English.
You can talk to, right? Yeah.
I was in solitary confinement. They ended up putting. Well, I wasn't in solitary confinement. I was going through the whole intake orientation process where they kind of keep you segregated until they put you in general population.
Yeah.
And I was in there first like 2 or 3 weeks by myself. This was in a county jail when I was younger, and then they finally put somebody in there, spoke no English, but we figured out how to like play dice together, and we played some cards. And just that was like, I was grateful for that. What type of artistic abilities did you see while you're in like the county jails? I saw in the county jails, guys were making dice out of like toilet paper. They're making spiders that looked real, just really like,
when I was in the county jail, it's usually like the Pisces, the Hispanics.
Yeah.
They're really good at this shit. I don't know how they do it, but I've seen everything from little slippers that they make out of paper chip bags.
Yep.
Dice, all kinds of crazy.
And they sell this
I've
stuff.
seen little boxes they've made and picture frames that they do. Yeah, and they do sell it. That's their hustle.
Yep. Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? Like how much creativity and just it's such a waste of talent that people get left behind.
Extravagant stuff too. Jewelry boxes. I've seen jewelry boxes getting made and stuff like that. It's crazy.
We had a guy in leather shop making these like really high-end leather. I think we spoke about this last time, these leather purses and stuff. And he would send them home and his family would turn around and sell them for him for like a decent profit. Talking $500-$600 for like a prison purse. And these things were like backpacks and buckles on them and zippers. I mean, like
there's a lot of talented people in jail, man, in prisons.
I've always thought it would be cool to link up with some inmates that are in these programs and start a program for them and say, look, you send us the stuff, we'll post it on our site, we'll sell it for you and send you back the proceeds to help you, because they have to pay for their supplies, leather.
Well, I have somebody for you then.
We'll talk about that.
Let's
talk about it, because it's giving back for one.
Yeah.
And let's not lie, it's great for content, but at the same time, it's letting them kind of move into what they're good at. So McNeil Island, was it the same? Was it tiers? Was it cells?
McNeil Island is it is tiers. It was 2 tiers high per floor, but McNeil Island's buildings were, instead of like Airway Heights was a big building that only had 2 floors. McNeil Island actually has 4. They have 4. They have a unit stacked on top of another unit. So you have a lower unit, you have an upper unit, and each unit has 2 floors in it. So it was, the whole building's 4 floors, but each unit's broken into 2 units, and I believe it has about the same amount of cells as Airway Heights did, 60 something, 70, something like that.
Okay.
And they're all 2-man cells as well. Little bit different atmosphere. I mean, the yard was still completely open. I mean, this is back in the 90s, so a lot of things changed since then. But back then, everything was just wide open. If you wanted to go to the yard, you could just go out there. If you wanted to go to the gym, you just go to the gym, and it really wasn't much different than Airway Heights. It was pretty relaxed. It wasn't,
so you're at another place that wasn't really testing your survival skills yet.
No.
Okay.
No. I never really had any problems. I was a hothead, so I'd get into fights if I needed to, but violent wise, I never felt like I was unsafe.
Or even just like seeing crazy stuff pop off, people getting stabbed and raped and things.
I never seen any of that in the state.
Okay.
I never seen any rapes happening in the state. I never seen anybody getting stabbed in the state. And
that's crazy, because people really I think is it just people that don't know, because every time they'll see a video and they'll see us talking about a camp at the feds, oh, if you did state time, you wouldn't be saying this, and people talk like state is so
some of the states are severe,
just like some of the feds are.
California, Texas, stuff like that. The state prisons for there are rough, but in our state, it really wasn't. You get into like closed custody, Walla Walla or Clallam Bay or something like that, you have a lot more gang stuff, and you have more fights, more stabbings, but even then it's not it's not crazy.
So did you finish the rest of your 48 months at this place?
All the way until my last 6 months. They sent me to a work release facility here in Yakima.
Okay.
They usually do that on, when you get down to about 6 months, they want to transition you back out in the community. So
is a work release similar to halfway house?
Yes.
You sleep there?
You sleep there. You're required to get a job. You pay rent there. I can't remember how much the rent was, but it was a set amount.
Could you go home at all?
Not right away. No.
Okay. You have to earn the privilege.
You got to earn the privilege. You get I think when you first get there, it's like a blackout period, which meaning you can't go anywhere at all. You can't get visitors for a few days. The only thing that they will allow you when you first get to work release, of course, things have probably changed, but when I was there, the only thing that they will allow is when you first get there, they will take you to like Walmart or something to get hygiene products and whatever else you need.
And do you have to pay for that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happens if you don't have any money in work release?
Gosh, I cannot.
Is there like state issued hygiene? Like here's a state.
I think they do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they do.
They can't they can't let you walk around smelling like, a busted butthole or anything.
Right. I think that they got all that. Oh, she's over there laughing. Busted butthole. I like that one. That one's a good one.
Hashtag busted butthole.
Hashtag busted butthole.
So work release. What did you do for a job in your last 6 months?
Oh, what did I do? I think I
robbed banks.
Yeah, I did that on the side. No, I think I was working for Michelson's packaging company.
Okay. Did they help you find this job, or was this like you had to go out, hustle, find your own job?
Actually, the work release does pretty good. They usually get a list. I don't know where they get these lists from.
Like inmate or felon friendly employers type of a
right,
list. Because they want you to work. Because they're
you have to work. You only have I think they give you back then. They only give you like 2 to 3 weeks to find a job,
Or you go back.
or you go back,
To
or
finish.
if they, well, they'll have a meeting with you and say, what's the problem?
Right.
Why aren't you finding a job?
So if
And
you can show
have
that,
legit reasons, because when you go out for a job, even if they don't send you to a particular place, everybody's required to get up at like 7 in the morning,
right?
and you have this little piece of paper, and you just get on the bus, the local bus, and drive around, and you have to have, I think back then you have to have at least 3 signatures. So every time you go in to talk to somebody about employment, after you fill out the application, and then you have to just suck it up and be like, hey, by the way, I'm from work release. Can you sign this piece of paper saying that I was here? And
right.
they have to sign it. They got to put their phone number on it.
So they can verify.
Yeah.
Then
At the end of the day, I think you're out working, in the bus system, walking around town, putting in your applications. They have a check-in period of like noon, and that's down at the city bus station. They have a van that'll pull up, and people that are from work release already know at noon, I have to go check in with these people, and and then they get back on their bus and they continue to do what they're doing. And then everybody has to be on the last bus at 4 o'clock back to the work release.
So on your days off, would you just have to hang out at the work release facility?
Some people did, but if you have a job and you're already paid up on your bills, your rents,
you can go home.
You can get passes for,
Okay.
I think it starts out at like 8 hours a pass with your family. They can come and pick you up, take you home, wherever, and then bring you back. Eventually, after you've been there for a while and you've earned these levels, they got a little leveling system. Eventually, you can get like overnight visits.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that helps. Kind of gets you ready to go back into society. So you finish out your 48 months. Did you finish out your work camp? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think I did.
So after you finished work release, did you have probation or anything following you?
Yes. I've always had probation since I was a teenager, since I was a kid, because of all the crap. I was always on probation. So I was on DOC probation as well.
So once you did you violate your probation once you got released from your first 48-month sentence, you did your time at the work release camp, then you were on probation of some sort. How long did you go before shit went south again for you?
Not very long. I think within a couple months.
Okay.
I was already back into doing drugs, and that's when I committed my first bank robbery. Because a guy in actually one of the prisons I was at, he was a bank robber, but he got caught on the Seattle side, and he was telling me about how he was robbing banks with a note. And I was kind of intrigued by that and asked him some questions and stuff like that. He's like, oh, yeah, it's easy until you don't get caught.
How many banks did he successfully, well, everybody claims, but how many banks did he say he robbed and got away with?
He never told me. I think he got busted for a couple of them.
Okay. So you were out a few months, you were on probation.
Yep.
And got back into drugs. Did you violate your probation? Did you know you were going to violate? Were you on the run at any point?
I know. Yeah, I was on the run. I already,
because once you started doing drugs, you're going to test dirty.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So take us into like the downfall of your first bank robbery.
Oh, okay. So I think I was out a couple months from the state. I was already into drugs. I was into heroin and cocaine. And then I remember just running around on the streets and not having any money. And I'm like, this is bullshit. I got to get some money. I got to get high, all this stuff. And then I remembered about having this conversation with this guy in prison a long time ago, and him telling me basically how he was robbing these banks with a note. And so I was walking around downtown here, and not even really too much of a plan. Walked down to this bank. I wrote out a little note and went in there with a baseball hat and some sunglasses and a hoodie pulled up, and went in there and gave a teller a note and robbed it. And I think I only got like $4,500 or something like that. And I remember, getting out of this bank, I was scared to death at first.
Did you hear cop cars and coming and stuff?
Not right away. No, I think I was in and out of the bank in probably 30 to 40 seconds. It wasn't very long. I walked right in, and first teller I seen, I went right up there and gave her the note. And, she looked freaked out, but she stayed calm, and she just looked at the note and then looked up at me and looked back down to the note and then looked up at me. And I'm like, make it happen. And so she gives me the money, but her eyes were big, and I could tell that, she'd probably never been robbed before. She was freaked out. So she gave me all the money in there, and I made sure I told her, because the one guy had told me, make sure you tell him, no dye packs, no tracking devices. And I told her in the note and verbally, I said, don't give me any dye packs. Don't give me any tracking devices. And he says, well, if you tell them that, they have to do it. They have to. And they're FDI insured. They have to do that.
Right.
So I was like, okay. So I did all that, got the money, and left the bank. And once I got out of the bank, I took around one block, and I'm just running. And I was scared to death. I was sweating and everything else. I was thinking, shit, am I going to get away with this? I got away with it, ended up spending the money on drugs. And
There's no dye packs?
No dye packs, no
Okay.
tracking devices.
Oh,
I went through all the money too.
Apparently that's a law. You can't do it if the bank robber felon says no dye packs and
none,
no tracking devices. It's
the
federal law.
gospel. You're not supposed to do it, right?
So you got away, you spent the money, got high.
I did. I got away. I spent the money, got high. And then once the money was gone, I was like, well, crap, that was easy. I'm going to go hit another one. And so I think I ended up buying some cheap car and drove to the Tri-Cities. I was like, well, if they're looking for me here, or think I can't keep robbing banks in my own backyard.
Right. Someone's going to recognize me.
Right. So I went to the Tri-Cities and robbed a couple more and spent all that drugs. By then, I don't know how they got a tip that it was me, but eventually I got arrested. FBI came and got me.
And when they arrested you, they knew you did the other bank too?
Yep.
Okay, so they got you for two banks.
They got me for a total of 3 banks, but I plea bargained for 1.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was actually.
And were you back here at Yakima County Jail?
I was.
So when they arrested you, they brought you to Yakima County.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a friend that
This was still state charges at this point?
What, for the bank robberies?
It's federal.
Yeah, that's federal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were at Yakima in a federal holding area?
Yeah, I was in the Yakima County Jail and getting held under federal.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
But before I got arrested for it, I remember I went and bought this cheap car. I think it was like $1,000. And when I did get busted, I had a friend that worked at a car lot. And I was going down there to talk to him about it, not knowing that he was already talking to the feds. And when I pulled into their car lot, there was a couple guys he was talking to. I had no idea that they were feds. And I pulled in, and as soon as I pulled in, I seen one point at me, and I stopped. And then the next thing I know, there was FBI all over in this car lot. And I remember, I had my hands on the wheel, and they're telling me stop. And then the only thing I can remember is one of the cops reached in and grabbed me by the hair and pulled me out the window.
Wow.
FBI agent slammed me to the ground and handcuffed me. And I went to the county jail, and then I was charged federally at that point for the bank robberies. But
so charged federally,
mm-hmm.
and the federal courthouse is right over here too.
Right.
So that's where you were going.
Well, I robbed the bank over here. It was 1 block away is a federal courthouse with the U.S. Marshals and the FBI. It's crazy.
Somebody skipped out on your lesson in life, saying don't shit where you eat.
Right. I didn't even think about it when I did it. I was like, man. And then I thought about it later on. And
This is a pretty small town. Like people recognize.
I thought about it later on, and I was like, man, that was really stupid. They were like, and people were like, dang, you got some balls robbing a bank that was 1 block away from the feds.
From the feds, yeah, and a police station not too far down the street.
Right.
So how much time were you facing on this one? You took a plea deal for 1.
I did. And actually, my first plea deal for the bank robbery, was less than I did for my BB gun robbery. I got 37 months on my first bank robbery case.
So the bank robbery where they had you for 3, gave you a plea for one, your sentence was 37 months?
37 months.
Wow. 37 months. And where'd you go for this one?
I went to USP Lompoc.
USP. So you went to the United States Penitentiary.
I went to the penitentiary.
Is it because it was an act of violence? You threatened a gun?
No, because just bank robbery in itself is an act of violence.
Okay. So
I didn't even have a gun.
So you're at
I think that in my note, I might have said something.
Yeah, I think when you threaten a gun.
Right. It has potential of violence.
Yeah.
So.
Potential bodily harm or something to that effect. So anyway, so you went to the pen at Lompoc, California, right?
Yeah.
How long? What was that like compared to your prison sentence here?
Oh shit, that was crazy. That was wow. I remember when
take us into day one of entering Lompoc, guys, potential clients that are going to Lompoc. You're going to the camp. Okay? You're not going to You're not going to the USP. So the stories you're about to hear are not of the camp. They're of the United States Penitentiary.
So if you're trying to hear these stories, you might want to tune into all the other stuff because it is not happening. I know all kinds of people at the camp and been around all these kind of people. These stories will not happen at the camp. So
take us through day one of Lompoc camp.
Okay. So let's backtrack just a little bit. So when I got arrested for the bank robbery, I was transferred to FDC and CTEC, the Federal Detention Center, where I went through a whole classification again, just like the state does. So you go there, you get classified, you sit there for a period of time, and then they transferred me from there. I still did not know I was even going to Lompoc. They put us on another bus and drove us to Sheridan, Oregon. And once we got to Sheridan, Oregon is also another receiving facility. So I get to Sheridan in the FDC, the Federal Detention Holding Facility, and I got classified. At that point, after I'd been there a couple weeks, I got classified for Lompoc. In my mind, I'm thinking, well, there's Lompoc camp, there's all this. I had no idea that I was even going to the penitentiary.
Right.
No clue. I'm 21 years old. And I'm like, oh, there's
that probably
no way.
That probably had a lot to do with it. Your age probably had a lot to do with it too.
Yeah.
You classified higher.
Probably.
Yeah.
And so even sitting on this bus, we drove from Sheridan, Oregon. And at that time, I didn't even get to experience flying Con Air. At that time, we drove all the way from Sheridan, Oregon to Lompoc in a bus. And that in itself was a hell of a ride. That was long. And when we pulled up to the federal penitentiary in Lompoc and they're calling off people to get off the bus, I remember sitting there thinking, well, they must be dropping off the penitentiary first because there's penitentiary people getting off. They called my name. I was like, I got off the bus. I wasn't going to say anything. So I got off the bus and walked into the R&D there. And even the people are, giving you the clothes and you're going through the whole thing. And I was like, I think I'm at the wrong place. And they go, oh, no, James, no, you're at the right place. This is where you're going to be. I was like, no shit. Oh, crazy. Because you pull up Lompoc and all you see is this big ass, a lot of razor wires and a lot of, it was crazy looking and it's old. I was like, and you hear all the horror stories, you watch these movies of different things about Lompoc getting mentioned. So it's a penitentiary. So at that point, when they told me I was staying there, I was freaked out. I was scared.
And you were 22?
21.
Okay, 21.
21. Yeah.
And what was the first day like? Did you see anything crazy? Did people come up to you? They were checking paperwork here, I imagine.
Absolutely. They were checking paperwork. You had 30 days to produce all your paperwork.
And when you say produce paperwork, what paperwork were they asking you for? What
they were asking for your PSI, your pre-sentence investigation.
And how do you get that? Because you're not supposed to have that in
prison.
You're
not. Most people do not have it. They have it sent in.
Right.
Yeah. You have 30 days to have it sent in.
And the guards let that go through the mail?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes in as legal mail.
Legal mail.
Usually what we'll do most of the time is we get a hold of our federal defenders, our attorneys, and ask them, hey, I need my pre-sentence investigation. Most of the time they know exactly what it's for.
Right.
And, you know, it's legal work. So we get it sent in the mail under legal work. Under legal work, they could just open the legal papers. They can briefly look through it. They can't read it. They're not supposed to anyway.
Right. They want to make sure there's no contraband in there.
Contraband.
So your first 30 days while you're, who comes up to you to tell you that you need it?
Mostly your car. You know, when you first walk in, like when I walked into Lompoc, I was approached by several. I mean, obviously I'm white. So, white guys walk up to me. They ask you where you're from, where'd you come from, all the general questions. Who are you, who you run with, who you tipped up, any of that kind of thing. And then they try to figure out who you are, how much time do you have, or who do you run with. And, you know, in the feds, it's usually divided by state is your car. So I was from Washington State, told them I was from Washington, and they would call over people. Hey, this is your new homeboy. And then you kind of go into the, you know, with your own car, whatever state you're from is usually the people that check your paperwork. They give you the rules, you know, all the things.
While you're waiting the first 30 days, because obviously they don't know until, you know, they know what you tell them.
Right.
Can you sit and eat and walk in your first 30 days?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you go to the chow hall, all those kind of things, you pretty much sit with your car, whoever your you know, your state.
Right.
We didn't have too many people from Washington State. There was a few of us. The main guy that ran the whole yard was actually an AB, and he was from Washington State. So,
and when you went in, you were not an Aryan Brotherhood. You were not affiliated to any.
I was a 21-year-old kid,
just out there hustling it up.
Yeah.
So now things happen there. Politics are in play there. It's fights, race wars.
I didn't see many fights. It was stabbings. Yeah.
Okay.
You see fights at the FCIs and you see fights at some of the state facilities, but penitentiaries were all knives. You know, it was.
Did you have a knife?
Absolutely.
What'd you make your knife out of?
I got it from another guy. It was just an ice pick, basically.
Like an actual ice pick or a homemade ice pick?
No. So when you go to USPs, you have to clear metal detectors all the time. And there's only usually stainless steel is the only thing that will clear a metal detector. So most of all our knives came out of, you know how you like go into the kitchen and they got that big ass dishwasher and they put all the trays in and runs through the dishwasher. Well, all those rods in there are stainless steel. So those rods get stolen out of there and then chopped off, shaved, and made into a knife or a pick or whatever. And those are the only things usually will clear a metal detector besides plastic knives.
So you're walking the yard with your ice pick.
Yeah.
How often did stuff pop off and like give us a scenario of a situation, like, because this is the first time you've ever seen anything like this, right?
Yeah.
What went down and what went through your mind? Like what kind of battleground were you in?
Well, I remember the first day I walked in there and then I got into my pod, my unit. It was like every hour. They call it the deuces. You'll hear an alarm go off and you'll hear all these cops just running. And the deuces hit there. I remember it was at least 3 or 4 times a day. They would run from one side of the prison to another, or they would go onto the yard because there would be a knife fight happening. It happened every single day.
Did you ever witness one of these fights take place or stabbings?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Is it as gruesome as what you see on TV?
Yes. Yeah. Later, I mean, I got my first experience when I was actually in USP Atwater.
Okay.
They had sent this guy in there. He wasn't supposed to be on the yard. He'd already got in trouble at another yard for stabbing a cop. and he got sent to USP Atwater, and he was supposed to go directly to the shoe. He wasn't supposed to hit the compound, and he was part of the Asian crew, and he got out and he was in our unit, and he wasn't there very long. And Pruno's a big thing, Shine's a big thing. They drink a lot, and he got drunk, and it was supposed to be a 4 o'clock count, and they were trying to lock everybody down to do a stand-up count. And he's drunk, got mouthy with the cops, and they told him, shut up, get in your cell, it's count time. He ended up stabbing him, and it was not even very far from me. And he was stabbing him so much, and then pretty soon the cop's dead, and the inmate has his arms around him. He's got his legs wrapped around him. Cop's laying on top of him, and he's still shoving that ice pick. And the cop's, he's dead. He stabbed him all the way for probably a minute or two at least. He just kept stabbing him. Cops are running in. They had to peel him off him. And yeah, it was some brutal shit.
What's going through your mind when you're watching this? You ever seen anything like that before in your life?
No. No, I'd never seen anything like this. It was the craziest thing. Yeah.
Because these are human beings just taking other human beings' lives right there in front of you.
Lompoc was pretty rough, but a lot of the stabbing experiences and the stuff that I've seen was actually other places. But Lompoc was pretty rough when I was 21 years old. But I mean, I was at Atwater, and we were locked down for 6 months because it even hit CNN. The cops didn't even want to come into the prison. It was so violent. And cop got killed there, and that same cop got killed. We locked down for 3 months in our cells, couldn't come out at all. They would handcuff us and take us to a shower twice a week. We were allowed a shower. Besides that, all the meals were served in a slot in our door. And when we did go to showers, it would be all your homeboys, or it'd be your cellmate and maybe another cell. And then when you went into the shower itself was a whole little stall with a chain fence, and you'd have to stick your arms out to unhandcuff to take a shower.
Wow.
And you got 5 minutes to take a shower, get back to your cell. So we were locked down for 3 months. And then they decided, well, we're going to have what they call a loose lockdown, or let up loosely. So when they do that, they release the lockdown, but you can only stay in your unit. There's no movement outside the unit. And
no yard time.
None of that. You're allowed to be in the day room for a certain period of time. No movement throughout the prison, because they want to see how it's going to react.
Right.
And we were out on the flats in the unit no more than a day or two. And then another a race riot happened over a TV. Black and whites got into it in another unit, bunch of stabbings, and we were locked down for another 3 months. So it was like a 6-month lockdown. And at that point, it hit CNN, and the cops didn't want to come to the prison anymore. They said that this was
too dangerous.
It was too dangerous. They didn't want the risk. And all they were giving was stab-proof vests. And I think that they even had to pay for it themselves. The union wasn't happy. It was all over CNN. The warden ended up getting fired. They had to bring in a troubleshooting warden that is used to dealing with unstable prisons to try to get it back to conform. And yeah, it was a crazy experience.
And that was at Lompoc?
Or that was at Atwater.
Atwater. Okay.
That was at Atwater.
So how many?
Sorry, I'm getting ahead.
No. Hey, look, it's kind of all blends, right?
It all runs together.
How many federal prisons were you at?
Oh,
so Atwater.
USPs or just federal and stuff?
Federal.
Let's see. At least 7 or 8, I think.
Okay.
Maybe more.
So after you got sent, I think you said 37 months you got sentenced for that bank robbery, and you went to Lompoc. Lompoc was pretty rough, but not as bad as Atwater, obviously.
No.
When you got out, did you get did you get your good time?
Yes, but they always say that you're getting 54 days a good time a year.
Those aren't sound effects, guys.
That is not me either. I did not do it, I swear. Anyway, they always say that you can earn up to 54 days a good time. the reality is when it all breaks down, not unless they've changed the law. Back when I did it, when they said 54 days a good time a year, it usually balanced out about 48. So, and
you didn't do RDAP or anything like that?
I did not.
Did you get halfway house time?
Not at that time.
Okay.
No,
So
I had dirty UAs and different things I got in trouble for when I was at Lompoc. So
Okay.
I did not get, I don't even know if I got much good time at all.
So you did the majority of the 37 months.
Yeah.
And then you got released.
I did.
You're on probation, obviously, because when you get out of the feds, your supervised release is mandatory.
Yep.
How long were you out this time?
I got out released from Lompoc in 2000. Ended up getting married, and I think I was out a total of 7-8 months.
Oh, not very long again.
Not very long again.
And what happened? The same thing. Got back into drugs.
Part one.
Yeah.
The story went, and I ended up robbing that grocery store.
Oh yes, this is where you have the you're throwing cans of soup.
Yeah. Yes, at the SWAT team, and they were coming.
So this was during that time frame. This was that 7 or 8 months you're out. That's when this happened.
Yeah.
Because you're out 7 or 8 months, married.
Yeah.
The woman you married, was she a drug addict?
Yeah. She was.
Before you met her?
Not. I mean, I think she was doing drugs. She was kind of hiding it from me.
Okay.
I met her, and she worked at a bar. She was a bartender, and we got together, and then slowly I started seeing some things, and then pretty soon, yeah, she was just doing the drugs in front of me at that point.
And you guys are just doing drugs.
Yeah.
It was a normal thing.
Mm-hmm.
So take it. So we'll obviously anybody who wants to hear the full story, go back to episode 1. He goes into more detail about this. So 7 or 8 months, you're out. Odd jobs here and there, I'm assuming.
No, I had a full-time job. I was working at a metal fabrication company, doing some grinding, sanding on metal. I didn't have any work experience. I've done, I've never really had too many jobs. So I get what I can get.
So you're watching the comments to show them up on the screen. I'm seeing several.
Oh, we got question and answers.
Not question, just people commenting.
Oh.
Want me to put the like below?
Yeah. Just as people comment, just show it up on the screen. So go ahead, continue.
Oh, anyway, so yeah, we were doing drugs and all that stuff. I did have a job. I had a job at a metal fabrication company, and it was a pretty good job. I was happy with it. But what happened with her, she started out having a job for a long time, and then eventually she just became a lazy ass, and she quit her job and was laying around doing nothing while I was working. And she had a couple kids of her own, little kids. And I remember coming home after work, and I'd have to take care of them because they'd be sitting around in shitty diapers and everything else because she's sleeping depressed, or
that sounds horrible.
Or she's just coming off dope and she didn't want to do anything. So I'm working, and then it's another full-time job to make sure they come home and feed them and take care of all that. So at that point I wasn't happy, and I, wanted out of this anyway, but she was pregnant, going to have my son. So I was like, well, I need to stick around and try to do it. And, that's when we ended up, and I was on drugs, and we ended up deciding we were going to move to Spokane to get away from the drugs and start a new life.
Right.
And I was like, well, we need traveling money. And that's when I robbed that store. And
so you walked into a store. What kind of store was this again?
It's an Albertson supermarket. It's no longer there now,
okay,
but it was in Ellensburg.
You walked into Albertsons. Were these ones at the banks inside, or what exactly?
No, it didn't have a bank, but it had when you would like these big glass doors. There was 2 of them, and you could see this humongous. It's about as big as that wall. That was big as this wall. And from that side to that side up, you could see a big, humongous safe right by the glass window. So I seen it, and I pulled over and made my little fake bomb and went in there and had a ski mask on. And
that's right, you made a fake bomb for this one.
I did.
Like in a suitcase, you said, right?
Yeah, a little briefcase that I got somewhere. I don't know. It kind of opened up weird and everything.
Sounds like a James Bond villain.
It did.
So you walk in with your fake bomb that you just threw together.
Just threw together.
There wasn't a lot of planning and preparation that
None,
went into this,
none.
right?
It was definitely spur of the moment. Wasn't really thinking about it. And I'm like, shit, I need some traveling money.
Okay.
So I went in there and I robbed the bank or robbed the store. And as I was leaving, SWAT team came in. They were coming in with machine guns, chased me through the store. And
How'd they get there so fast?
I have no idea. I wasn't there. Maybe I was there a long time. I don't know. I didn't seem like I was there very long, but they kept stalling on me. Oh, we got to get the manager to open this safe and all these things.
So then you never actually got money out of this one.
I did.
Okay.
I didn't get to keep it.
Right.
I cleared out the safe.
Okay. Was it like in a bag? Was it?
No, it was a bunch of like tills that had a bunch of money in it. So I'm grabbing those. I'm just shoving the whole till into a duffel bag. I had a big duffel bag.
Okay.
And all the quarter rolls. I took everything they had. They even had calling cards and everything. I took everything they had in the safe and shoved it in a duffel bag. And that was probably my mistake. I'm taking too long. And I was just going to the door when they were coming in with the machine guns, and I took off through the store, and Paul Bart got me on the side.
So so you said you're running through the store, they're chasing you, you're throwing cans of soup at them.
Yeah.
And they didn't catch you. The military didn't, because you said this was the military.
The bomb squad was the military. The other part was just a SWAT team.
Okay. SWAT team.
Yeah.
Chasing you with the automatic weapons.
Yeah. But I never pulled the gun, so they didn't shoot me.
Right. Thank God.
So I'm running away from them.
And you said you slipped to like a bay door or something?
So I run through the store. It's a long aisle through Albertson's supermarket. I'm running through it and they're chasing me. And
how many do you think were chasing if you had to guess?
If I was to guess, 2 or 3 of them were chasing me.
Okay.
And so I'm running through the store, and you know how they have those little plastic things in the back when you go back by the produce section?
Like where you push through?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Big slot plastic.
Big.
So I run through that. And I remember when I came into this grocery store that there were 2 big, large bay doors that semis drive down to unload their whatever they got on the trailer.
Right.
So I remember seeing 2 of those down there, and I ran through that plastic and I took a right and I ran down to the first bay door, grabbed it, and it had a padlock on it. I couldn't open it. And so I ran to the next one and tried it, and it was unlocked. So I pulled it up a little bit, slid my body down, slammed the door.
So they probably didn't know that you went under it.
They did not. I don't think they knew at all, because when they were chasing me, I think I was probably 15, 20 feet in front of them. And when I hit that plastic and took off the other direction, they probably didn't know if I went right or left.
So you're thinking, shit, maybe I got away with this.
Yeah. So I pull it, I jump down, and I can see the cop car because it's in an incline. I can see a cop car pointed at the grocery store. And there's these big bushes on the side because it's at an incline. And there's these big bushes on the side. And I remember cruising up there, and I have the ski mask. I take the ski mask off and I throw it in there in this bush. And I'm going around the corner, and I'm thinking, man, I'm home free. They're in there chasing me around. I get around the corner. As soon as I get around that bush onto the sidewalk, Paul Bart's there, and he takes me down.
Like tackles you?
Yeah.
Did you see him? Would he blindside you?
Pretty much, because I just came around the corner and went right smack into him, and he took me to the ground.
So he's referring to Paul Bart as like a mall cop. So this is like
it's campus police.
This is the security.
Yeah, campus police security guard.
I bet to this day, if you're watching this, I would love to have you on the show. He might live here still. It'd be honestly, how cool would it be to have the security guard and you at a table to rehash this?
Yeah, right? Paul Bart got me.
Wouldn't it be interesting to talk to him? Fuck. Hey, you're invited.
Hey, Paul Bart.
I guarantee this guy's got like an award or something that's still like displayed on the mantle of his house. He's like, I got him. That was me.
I got him. He might have got a promotion.
It's pretty cool though. The guy, because
he's got to be pumped about it.
I would be.
Yeah.
So you got taken down. This was at Albertson's store.
Yeah.
Angie says, hi, Dan and guest.
Hey.
So, hi, Angie.
Hi, Angie.
And Ben's been commenting. He says, whoa. He says, damn, brother. So a couple different comments. He's listened to the story. Those of you that are watching, thank you so much for ask a question. If you got a question, that's why we're doing these live.
For sure.
And he's local, so we'll probably have him back on to keep tabs on him. So they catch you.
Yeah.
And what are you charged with this time?
I'm charged with first-degree robbery.
First-degree robbery. Why first degree? What made it first degree?
I think because of the threat of the bomb.
Okay.
even though it was fake, it was almost like a takeover robbery.
It's fucking pretty scary.
Yeah.
So the guy tackles you, and the first thing they're probably doing is looking for like some kind of a detonation device. Make sure you don't like blow everybody up, right?
I got pat searched really good, and they took me to the police station and then stripped me down to see if there was anything. And they took the bomb, of course, and I don't know what happened with all that, but.
And this time you're brought back to Spokane.
No, I was booked into the Ellensburg County Jail.
Ellensburg. Okay.
Yeah.
What's that jail like? That's a real small little area.
It's small, just like the small area. I think it was like a dormitory, and I think there was like maybe 6 or 8 of us in the whole thing.
Right. That's crazy.
We have a little TV that's behind a fiberglass window that we have a little remote. It was pretty cush.
What's going through your mind though? You're like, oh, I'm so fucked. This is like my third time now.
Oh, I was thinking I was never getting out. I was thinking, oh yeah, I really screwed up. I'm never getting out of prison.
Where did you go to court at? Because this was in Spokane.
No, it was in Ellensburg.
Where you did it was in Ellensburg.
Yeah.
Do they have their own federal courthouse there?
They do not, but it wasn't a federal case. It was
that was because it wasn't a bank. That's right. That's right.
It was state. So I went to court in Ellensburg, and I thought all the way to the end that, man, they're gonna hammer me. I'm never gonna get out. Luckily for me, that when they do background checks, they probably changed it now, but when they do a background check back then,
they weren't doing federal.
They weren't doing federal.
So
they had no idea that I'd already been to prison for bank robbery.
So wait a minute. You get arrested. You go to court. You're in Ellensburg. They do a background check on you. Don't tell me that when you actually got sentenced, they didn't know you had a. They
did not. Okay. They did not know it. I mean, things have probably changed, but.
So how much time did they give you for this?
What did I do on that? I think I did like 72 months or something like that.
Okay. 72 months because of how severe the threat was with the bomb, probably.
But later on, they did find out because I had they did find out.
Because you were on probation, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So automatically the probation department put a hold on me.
You had a federal detainer.
I had a federal detainer. So it came out that I had a federal detainer later on, but during the sentencing and the pre-sentence investigation,
none of that.
They never found the Fed stuff. They would have found this Fed stuff, I'd have been screwed.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get sentenced to 70 months?
I think it was 72.
Where'd you go this time?
This time I went to, where did I go from that one? I think I went to Monroe, didn't I? Yeah, I think I went to the Washington State Reformatory.
Okay.
In Monroe.
And what kind of security was that level wise? Was it like high, low, medium?
It was a medium high.
Okay. Still not nearly as rough as what you did at Lompoc and
no, absolutely not.
No, not Atwater. Where was it again?
Well, Lompoc, Atwater. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. It wasn't bad. Monroe was it was really relaxed. There wasn't too much going on. There wasn't
no crazy stories.
No, there's some fights every now and then. And
did you do the majority of your time on the 70 something months?
I did most of it.
Okay. So you did another 5-6 years easy.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I went through I got some schooling there. I went through a graphic arts and printing vocational training. But Monroe was pretty sweet because they were all single man cells. So you have your little TV and you're all set up. It was nice.
Was it nice were you clean and sober when you were inside?
Some of the time.
This time? Do you remember?
What, the last time I was in?
No, when you were at Monroe.
Oh, when I was in Monroe? For the most part, there was a little bit of drugs on the yard, but not a lot. It wasn't like Lompoc and some of the other USPs where the whole yard's flooded full of drugs.
Right.
But
so the times that you would go through, like your moments of clarity, sober, were there like moments of like, oh, man, what am I doing with my life? Like where you would like have these, like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Was there any intent to eventually get out and do the right thing?
At that time?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I didn't have anything. I didn't, the marriage was pretty much over.
Was the baby born?
Yes. The baby was born.
That's not who just got sentenced.
No,
No, okay.
no, that's my other son.
Okay.
The baby was born, but the relationship was just done.
Okay.
And, I didn't, I grew up in foster homes and group homes. So I didn't have any family. I didn't have anybody.
Right.
Really didn't give a shit, so I wasn't even at that particular time. I wasn't even looking at, staying out or staying clean or none of that. I was ready to get out and do it again.
Right.
So
when you got out, how long were you out after that time?
let's see here. I did my state time, and then
That's right. You had a federal detainer waiting.
Right. So and then I got sent to the federal halfway house in Spokane because they don't have a federal halfway house.
Is that the one on Sprague?
I believe. Yeah,
it's got to be
Freya.
Yep.
Freya.
Yeah, that's what I was. Okay,
Yeah.
Sprague and
the old
Freya.
mechanic shop.
Yep.
Yeah. So I got sent there, and I don't think I even had more than 90-day violation or something like that. It wasn't very long. And after I finished my state time, the feds picked me up and they said, well, you did all this time. It's no sense in giving you a huge violation and send you for some more. So we're going to go ahead and give you, I think they gave me a few months of a halfway house, and took me to the one in Spokane. And when I got there, it was nice. It was wide open. And I was like, man, this is nice. After being down for 72 months, like, this is pretty nice. So I got a little freedom, was out looking for a job. I found a job working at this printing company because I went through the vocational training to graphic arts and printing. So I got a job at this place to print envelopes and stationery and stuff like that. And my boss was really cool, and he had this old truck, and he's letting me make payments on it. And I'm at the halfway house, and I have this little fling with the director of the halfway house, and so I'm getting extra privileges. I'm not there much. And after that, I ended up, she let me go stay at this monthly to month, I think it was
it's like a extended stay hotel type of thing. You're
kind of, yeah. It was right on Division.
Right.
And staying there, supposed to be going to work. Eventually, I just started getting into drugs, and I'm missing work and everything else. And I was like, well, shit, this isn't going to last long. They're going to want a UA.
Yep. Which they do almost, all the time there anyway.
Especially if you miss work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, I took off in my little truck and went to Kellogg, Idaho, and robbed another bank. And
that was what bank was that? That was
West Fargo.
Wells Fargo.
Yeah. Oh yeah, right there.
Yeah, there's this picture in the background there, guys.
Yeah. So
no mask, no glasses.
Did not care.
Fuck it. Let's rob the bank and get some money and get on.
Let's get on, because I figured, well, I'm going back anyway. What does it matter? And I really didn't care. Like I said, I had no family, no nothing. So I really didn't care about myself or anybody else. So I robbed that and went on the run.
This is where you went through Vegas and all of that.
Vegas and Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, he had a long run, guys. And if you want to hear that whole story, that was on our last episode last Friday. Definitely tune in. We'll put a link for video 1. So you're having an affair with the halfway house director. Yeah. She calls you and tells you the cops are looking for you.
She said, oh yeah, the U.S. Marshals and the FBI has been here, and they know who you are. And they said that you robbed a bank in Idaho. And I was like, no, I didn't rob no bank. What are you talking about?
Must have been shitting your pants.
Yeah, I already knew at that point. I was like, well, shit, I'm going back.
Yeah.
It's not going to matter. So I went on the run at that point.
And when they caught you, how much time were you given this time?
I did 8 years, 1 month. How much time was I given? Do you remember, Renee, exactly on West Fargo?
Was it 10 years, 120 months?
Yeah, I did 8 years, 1 month on.
So you probably got 10 years.
10, yeah, 9-10 years. Sentence.
Okay. Yeah, I think I saw it. It was either 9 years or 11 years. It was either just under or just over.
It all runs together. It's so much.
And where'd you serve your time for this one?
I served my time starting out. I served my time in USP Atwater.
Okay.
Uh,
What was it like there?
I was crazy. That was my really, I mean,
That's the kind of stories.
Lompoc was violent, but that there was real. It was in your face, and it was.
Now, didn't you have to kind of affiliate in there to an extent just to stay safe? Like you couldn't just walk around by yourself, like say, I don't want to be part of nothing.
You know, when you go to a USP, it doesn't matter what race you are. You're going to be with a car.
Right.
It's just, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're Native American.
Right.
You're going to be with the natives. If you're white, you're going to be in some car. If you're Hispanic, you're going to be in some car. You're not going to be walking around on the yard saying, I'm with nobody. That just doesn't happen.
So the whites have ABs, obviously, right? What other white affiliations are there? And then there's also like the Woods or the Wood Pile.
Right.
Where did you fall into all that? And like, how did that change your cultural outlook on life going through some of this?
So my first experience on Atwater, I was there maybe a few days, and what really set it off, and I was like, oh yeah, this is a whole different atmosphere. Everywhere you go through is you're going through metal detectors, no different than Lompoc. But I remember coming out of a chow hall, and they had what they called the DC blacks, a bunch of black guys that are from DC.
Washington, DC.
A lot of them, you know, they have bad reputation. They're not liked by a lot of people for good reasons. But I remember coming out of the chow hall, and after I cleared the metal detector and some of the homeboys were coming behind me, and we were walking back to our unit, we weren't more than 20 yards or so. And they have a gun tower right in the middle of the prison yard. You know, they're surrounded by gun towers, but they're also a main gun tower that is right in the middle of the yard. And I remember coming out of there, and we were just talking, and I was about 20 feet from the metal detector, and we're walking back to the unit, and we could hear in the background there's an argument. We turn around and there's this black guy, DC black dude, that came out of the chow hall, and I don't know if he had anything on him or not, but he couldn't clear the metal detector, and there's two cops that were by the metal detectors, told him to stand for search. He says, I'm not standing for search. And I guess one of the cops tried to grab him, and he just started fighting him. And next thing you know, all his homeboys jumped in on it, and they're beating this cop. And I mean, they're beating him, stomping on his head and everything else. Gun towers firing shots. At first they shoot a warning shot up in the air, and then they move to rubber bullets, and then eventually it's tear gas, and then they go live rounds. So they're shooting off rubber bullets at this time, trying to, you know, everybody has to get to ground. You have to, and a USP, I hear at camps and lows, stuff like that, you have to literally lay down on the ground. In a USP, you don't lay down on the ground. I mean, no matter if they tell you you're going to lay down, you take a knee. If you don't take a knee, they will shoot you. There's no question. So everybody at that point, the deuces are going off. They're yelling over the intercom, all inmates on the ground. So we're all kneeled down watching this. And of course, they didn't go to live rounds. They were threatening to shoot. They were going to go to live rounds. But since there was two officers involved, and there was other officers over there trying to get this officer out of there, they never went to live rounds because they don't want to shoot their own. Mm-hmm. But eventually they got him, and he was beat. We went back on a lockdown. And then after that, it was just like, where the hell am I? At that point, every time the doors unlocked, it was some kind of violence. I was scared to death. I was man, I've really made it to big time now. So at this point, I'm carrying a knife around with me everywhere I go. At 6 a.m, when them doors open, before the metal doors slide open, you're already in your khaki suit. You have your boots on. You have your knife. You don't know what's happened previous to that day, or if there was an argument in the middle of the night, you don't know if you're going into a full race riot or gang politics are going to happen. So it was a lot of violence, and it was scary.
When you guys when you guys would shower, you come on in, have a seat. When you guys would shower, was there somebody there that was, would you, like, you're in the shower, somebody's watching your back, not watching your back, but making sure like you can shower in safety?
Yes. Yeah. Usually, none of us went to showering alone. When we had to shower, a couple of homeboys would come and they're going to take a shower too, but we'd go in turns, and people are standing there watching, making sure that nothing goes off. Yeah.
And you were there for how long? So you got sentenced to, so that was a 10-year bid you served. That was your last one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That was my last one.
Do you think if they would have started out of the gate instead of sending you to some of like the places that were like, ah, this isn't that bad, it's wide open, you know, I miss my family, sure, but if they kind of would have started you somewhere like
I
that,
think if they would have started me like when I started my state bit, if they would have started me in the feds at a USP, it might have cured me, because it was,
because you're not walking around just enjoying your life. You're carrying around a knife. You're worrying about watching your back, and you're not even involved in the game politics. And you're walking around with a knife.
Not yet.
You did.
I started getting into the politics. Yeah.
On with ABs.
Yeah.
Okay. How come?
Yeah. You got pictures of all of them over there.
This is so right here on the widescreen, Tony. So this is the ABs over here.
Yeah. You can see the tattoos on the side of their.
Oh,
Those are Aryan Brotherhood tattoos.
Okay.
And that's me kneeling.
And you know, this was a affiliation by, I imagine a lot of it's just kind of your surroundings. You know, it's you got to be affiliated to something.
Well, and you know, one of them, the tall guy that is right there putting his hands on my shoulder, was actually one of my cellies. He was my cellie there, and we became close. And I never became an AB member because all of them are doing life. I didn't, you know, it's a blood in kind of gang. You're
right.
You're gonna,
they'll kill people in prison because they're already down.
Well, not only that, to get in, it's a blood in gang, so you have to kill to get in.
Right.
So I wasn't willing to take that step, and so I wasn't even a prospect. I was what they call like a hang around. You know, I was friends with all of them. I worked out with them and hung out with them and ate with them, but when it came to their church, because they have a church you
couldn't go.
I wasn't a part of that. I couldn't be a part of those meetings. You know, I knew all their literature and politics and all that stuff, but when they actually had a church meeting sit down, I wasn't a part of that.
So these three guys right here are all part of it.
Yeah.
So these three guys have all killed somebody to get in.
Yep.
Okay. Nuts. Insane.
Yeah.
Was it weird? Like, I'm sure you heard stories, and I don't want you to, obviously, you know, I'm sure there's some kind of code.
I can't. Yeah, I can't get.
But it must have been
killed.
Right. It must have been pretty wild hearing some of the stories that these guys.
Some of the stories is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Coming out of that, did you get any? So when you left prison, did you still have mentality of like AB lifestyle? Or was it more like you did that while you're there because you had to survive?
I did that while I was there. I mean, it wasn't that I was trying to become an AB member or any of that. It was mostly, you know, the one cellie, he's my friend, and I got along with all the other ones, so it just became my friends.
Right.
But in a sense, it was more of a protection.
I was gonna say, it must be a level of protection.
Yeah, because the respect level that you get by being celled with an AB, or you're in the car with the AB, but you're not a member.
Right.
You don't have to.
That's similar to like what a paisa would be when you get into like the Nathaniels and Threños. Is it similar, or are they their own?
They're their own.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you, were you like wood pile? Were you wood? Like what?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I was part of the Washington car because I'm from Washington, but you know, even my car at Atwater, the Washington guys, a lot of them, once I started hanging out with the ABs, really didn't want much to do with me. Well, you're from Washington, you're supposed to be with us. And I would tell them, I got no problems with you guys. But these are my friends. So, and they're white too. So what's the problem?
Right.
And a lot of them wouldn't have much to do with me because they're even if you're white or you're black or whatever, if you decide you're going to hang out with a certain car, it doesn't mean that they all get along.
It's like turning your back on them.
Basically,
the way they're looking at it.
So when they had their little incident and somebody got stabbed, and I was kind of involved in that. But when they all went to the hole to get transferred, so did I, because guilt of association.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't a member and I wasn't a prospect, when we went over and took out a sex offender, I was one of the ones that got taken off the yard as well.
When you say took out a sex offender,
Yeah.
we're talking like took out a sex offender. He's no
Yeah.
longer breathing.
No. He was breathing. He was shitting all the way down the corridor and blood everywhere. But they got him out before he lost his life. But
So, and just because you were associated to those guys, you paid the same penalty that they would pay as far as solitaries go into the shooting.
well, I was involved in the incident too. So
Okay. So you participated.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
By choice, or let's say whether it's by choice or not, did you have a choice?
To a point, you don't.
Okay.
But if they're, sitting there talking about it, there's a sex offender on the yard, nobody else wants to clean it up, their car don't want to do anything, we have a meeting with the car and you tell them, hey, this guy's with your guys' car, he's out of your state, you need to clean it up, and they refuse, well, you got a certain amount of time to clean it up or we'll take care of it for you. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and take care of your car too, because you're not cleaning up your car. Gave him the opportunity to take this guy out, and he was, they gave him a few hours. You need to just get him out of here, because
nothing happened.
Nothing happened. So my cellie was telling me about it. We were in the cell, and he's like, dude, we got to go take this sex offender out. They're not, he can't walk this yard. We're not going to allow it. And at that point, I was asked, do you want to go in on this one? What could I say? I couldn't say, no, I'm living with her in AB.
Right. I want all the protection, but none of the responsibility.
I want all the protection, but I don't have to put in the work.
Right.
No. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's go take care of this. So we went into another unit, completely into another unit, just breezed right through the metal detector. Cops standing on the metal detector didn't care. Because when you get on a mission like that, they don't give a damn about the cops at all.
Right.
We're going to get you. So I remember there's 4 of us, and we're all going to this unit to go get him. Get to the unit, and there's 2 cops at the metal detector. You need to clear the metal detector. Of course, we all have stainless steel knives, so we clear the metal detector. What are you doing in this unit? Don't even answer a question. And one guy that is pretty much the leader was like, just go. And we're just going right through, and he's trying to stop us. And, told the cops, just get out of the way. It's none of your business. So we went, and as soon as I seen the guy, I wasn't willing to stab him. I'm not looking at a bunch of time. I'm not going to kill him.
Right.
So my part, and just for the appearance, I walked up and just knocked him right in the mouth. And then after that, they took out knives and started just brutally stabbing him.
Jeez.
And once it was inside of a cell too. He stepped out of his cell. I hit him. He went right into the cell. All the other ABs came in there and started stabbing him up. Of course, as soon as we hit the metal detector and came into the unit, they're already hitting the deuces. So
they're right behind you.
Yeah, they already knew, because we didn't stop. We didn't ask for permission to enter this unit that we don't even live in. But they knew as soon as we were coming in that there was a serious problem. So as soon as we cleared that metal detector, they'd already hit their button. Cops are running. It went really, really fast, went right up to the cell, punched him. He fell into the cell. All the other ABs came in there and just started stabbing him. All the cops came in, broke it up. They carried him down the back corridor and literally shit is falling out of his pants.
Wow.
Like he shit his pants, and the drops are hitting.
Out of fear or out of just losing faculty?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it was out of fear.
Do you know if he lived?
Yes, he lived.
Okay.
He had to be sent. I think they air vac him out. He had to have multiple stitches, and we were all put in the shoe. At first, the cops had come into us and they told us, he was brutally, don't know if he's going to make it. You guys better hope he's going to make it.
Right.
And I'm shitting my pants, because even though I didn't stab him, I'm like, I'm just as guilty. I'm there, so. And the cops have said, you better hope he doesn't die. So we're sitting in his shoe waiting for him to find out if he's going to die. He makes it. But of course, we all got transferred out of that facility.
Well, I think we're going to pause this, and we'll probably get, I know maybe not next week, give you some time to, like, you know, do your stuff, but you want to come back again? Because we still got more to talk about.
Sure.
We're running out of time. This is intense stuff, man. This is, you know, this is the fear everybody has that's going into, again, clients, potential clients. This isn't stuff you're facing. This is what you're thinking about facing because of everything. That's
clients, you might want to change your ways. Don't go down this route.
Yeah,
it does get a lot worse. It
Yeah.
gets a lot more violent, a lot more crazy.
It definitely does. So obviously you're out, you're doing good, you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing now.
Yeah.
You know, we'll talk about a little bit of that next time. So it's not like he's fresh out. You've been out for
How long have I been out now? Yeah, something like that.
So he's out 8 or 9 years, not 8 or 9 months, 8 or 9 years, doing things the right way. So
Not
James,
on parole no more, none of that stuff.
free and clear, living
Free and
life.
clear.
He's got his beautiful wife Renee over there.
Yeah.
Who's didn't have
That's
to
my rock.
didn't have to get on the camera today.
Yeah.
We ran out of cameras. Maybe next time, Renee. We'd love to have a sit down with just Renee and hear her story
Woo!
one time.
Man,
We'll have,
she'll blow it up.
we'll have to leave James at home on that one. But we'll have the wine waiting for you, Renee.
Oh yeah, she needs a couple glasses of that to get her going.
Well, James, thanks again, man. Your
No
stories are fucking wild and cautionary tales. You've turned, I mean, a lot of people wouldn't bounce back from that. You know, that's a mentality that you had to do what you had to do while you were there. And now you're living this mentality. So I got to give you props, man.
Thanks.
Guys, RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time Consulting, people helping people, communities method, one day at a time. See you next Friday.
Peace.
Peace.